Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Hampton. I'm also known as Champ I Am, and I'm also a caregiver. Well, I was a caregiver, and I'll share that in a second. I just want to start off with this song that my mom and I used to listen to in the car when we were little, and it said, "For the 9 months I carried you, holding you inside me, no charge. For the nights I sat up with you, doctored and prayed for you, no charge." For the time and the tears and the cost through the years, there is no charge. When you add it all up, the full cost of my love is no charge. For the nights filled with gray and the worries ahead, no charge. For the advice and the knowledge and the cost of your college, no charge. For the toys, school, and clothes, and for wiping your nose, there is no charge, my son. When you add it all up, the real cost of my love is no charge. Again, I'm Christopher Hampton, and I'm Champ I Am, and I had that song was by Shirley Caesar, and I had the blessing and the honor to be a caregiver to my mother. She was actually, if you want to hear the story, the first caregiver to me, not just my motherly duty. Before the age of 7, or up to the age of 7, I was diagnosed as epileptic, and I received the diagnosis. And I remember I remember two things. I remember the diagnosis when the doctor tried to label that on me, and I also remember what it felt like at 7 years old to go through multiple seizures. And having that experience where you wake up in the middle of the night and you're trembling, you're shifting, you're shaking, and you can't speak, you can't cry out. And I listened to that, and I remember that, and I recollect that, and I can remember trying to bang on the wall just so that my mom could hear me. And then to hear the frustration of her that her son was being sick, and to hear that diagnosis from the doctor that says you will never live a normal life. But I love that song because it said the times that she prayed with you. My mom was the one that prayed over me. And at the age of 7, that was my last epileptic fit because she laid her body over mine to try to keep me still. And she just cried out and said, "Lord, I need my son healed." And she stood in the gap for me. And that was the last seizure that I had in my life at the age of 7. And I remember that. The funny part about that song was playing in the car with me and my younger brother, and we were kids. We had to be like 8, 9, and my mom asked me the question. He said, "Well, how you think you're gonna take care of your mom when we get older, when she gets older, and she gets sick? Are you gonna be able to take care of me?" I was like, "I don't know, Mom. I think we might have to put you in a nursing home." Don't judge me. We were kids. Okay. But the reality came that eventually I never knew how strong my mom was because even during that time, my mom suffered from bipolar schizophrenia. And I never knew until I graduated from I dropped out of high school. Well, till I got to my senior year of high school. And my mom we had to put my mom into the hospital because that was my father left us, and now it's just us. And we saw the real deal. And my mom was an educated woman with a master's degree. She was a teacher. She was my first teacher. The way I teach today is because of her influence. She was a pillar of strength. Never knew she had bipolar schizophrenia. And my caregiving began from that point because I was the oldest son. And part of the reason why I dropped out of high school was I was trying to fill too many shoes at one time. I couldn't be my mom's husband. I was her son. But I was trying to fill gaps. And I didn't realize I was trying to fill above and beyond what I was supposed to do. But I began my caregiving journey there because we had to realize that my mom was going into crisis. And we had to put her into the behavioral unit for the psychiatric ward. And that's a hard thing for a young child. Now, I'm not a child now, a young man going into young adulthood, have to admit his mom when she's in crisis. And a lot of times she didn't want to go. we had to take care of her. And I had to learn behind the scenes about the hospital and how the hospital system is not meant really set up to take care of people with mental illness. And I learned that firsthand, that the doctor systems, they don't communicate to one another. So I had to learn and step in and be that advocate for my mom, and to step in and to cover her into prayer, and to cover her condition, where this highly educated woman would lose her mind because of crisis and could not control it. And that was heavy. So most of my life, I was a caregiver and not really knowing what a caregiver was, to the point that my mom, as she began to get older, the more medication that they would give to her, I mean, there were medications started to what do you call, medications started to interact with each other in negative forms, and now side effects are happening. So my mom ended up having emphysema because she smoked, but she had chronic congestive heart failure. On top of all these conditions, diabetes, all of these things on top of, trying to keep her mind sane and being that caregiver at a young age. And now I'm thinking, I'm just trying to understand the system, to the point that I ended up having, I considered it 3 jobs. I had my full-time job, and then because of the thing called HIPAA, where HIPAA wouldn't let you, they used that as a way of saying we patient privacy. But when it came to the mental health, and I saw how flawed the system was, and how the doctors weren't talking to each other, and then she would come out on total different medications, and then when she would go into the mental hospital, she would go in for like 60 to 90 days out of the year, and then we would have to probably do that maybe once or twice out the year. And in that 60 and 90 days, there was no communication with the doctors, because the doctors felt that they wouldn't be able to talk to me because of HIPAA. So I ended up getting a job at the mental hospital as a security guard. Because I was going to see how my mama was being treated, because I knew how they treated patients. And I was advocating for my mom even as a security guard, because now the doctors were talking to me because I was on the floor. And then when there was nobody able to talk my mom down, they said, call her son, he's on shift. I was able to go and talk my mom down. I was given privileges to be able to go and care for my mom in an environment where normally family wouldn't be able to go. And I do that because she was there for me, my caregiver. She covered me all my life to that point. She died 1.5 years ago in her late 60s, early mid 60s. And I still say that's too soon. But in the last part of the caregiving part, about the last 5 years of the caregiving, it got really tough. And in caring for her, and her mind declined, but then she would have these strong spurts where she'd fight through it, and we would fight through it together. But as I told you, I was doing 3 jobs. It got to the point where before I would go to work, I would go and make sure that she had her medications for the day lined out. I would make sure that she was clean, come home from the second job, clean out the porta potty, make sure she was showered up, ready for bed, going for that part, taking care of herself. And then again, going into the night job, making sure she took her medication, to the point that she started taking all her medication at one time. And I was finding out that she wasn't taking her medication at the allotted times. And it got to the point where I had to, in the midst of that 5 years of me caring for her, it got to the point where I had to realize as a caregiver what your limits were. And you have to make sure, and I had to transition her from independent living to the nursing home. And in the midst of that, I keep on remembering that song saying, no, I had the opportunity to care for my mom. But in the midst of me caring for my mom, I had to realize there was an extent, there was a limitation. And as a caregiver, you have to realize what your limitations are. And that was the number one thing that I learned, was that the caregiver didn't stop because my mom was put into the nursing home, the caregiving was amplified in the nursing home because I still was there by her side. I still was her advocate. And I hear people sometimes say, because it's a tradition, well, I can't put my mom in a nursing home. I won't put my parent in a nursing home. Yet you've maxed yourself out. As Dr. Joe Harris said, was that you have to be able to know when you can give care to. I had a family, I had a wife, kids. Now I had grandkids. I had to take care of all those things, knowing how to balance it. I had 3 jobs and taking care of a marriage and making sure my family was taken care of. And on top of that, taking care of full time of a parent and making sure that I was advocating that she was getting the best care. And at the same time, you have to be able to say, there's a line that you have to say that God knows how much you can bear. Do you? And you have to be able to have the wisdom to be able to say that I need to make this transition to make sure that I can give her the quality care that she has. Now, some caregivers might not agree with me, and that's okay because it's based off of your experience. But when you realize that your mental health is declining and you still can't get the medication and you can't stand by that person 100% of the time, are you really being the caregiver when you are caring beyond where you can give? I don't know why I said that, because that was not.
Okay, so we're going to keep this going. I don't know if he just froze where he was at for a minute. Christopher may even be still talking. However, the system may have froze on his end. So, Christopher, what we're going to do, we're going to have you come back up and finish your story. I think it might have froze on your end, Christopher. So we'll have you come back up. In the meantime,
to be in my notes, but not everybody's meant to be the caregiver.
Okay, so as we can see, it may be some technical challenges on Christopher end. So what we can do, we'll have Christopher come back up and finish his story towards the end, or when he can get his signals and things together. But Christopher, I'm gonna have you come back up later and finish your story. It is such a wonderful story, and you have you got probably right at the 15-minute mark. So we'll have you come back up, Christopher, and share your story. Thank you so much. Okay, so in the meantime, we're going to keep this moving. We'll have Christopher come back up and finish sharing his story at the 15-minute mark. We thank you so much for that, Christopher. We know as a male caregiver, it can be sometimes hard to take care of your mother, right? However, Christopher was able to do it, and he did it like a champion, which that is his nickname, Champion I Am. Christopher, thank you so much, brother. We're going to have you come back up later. Next, coming up, we're going to keep it going because caregiver is just like it says, we're caring for someone, be it professional or family. We know that it can be challenging. We know it's days when we be isolated, we be sad, we be just feeling some kind of way. We just feeling overwhelmed. We're feeling fatigued. And then the question becomes, wow, who can I call? Who's going to come rescue me, right? These are real questions. I know I have felt that way before. I know I felt like I just want to just ride right past the house, ride past the hospital, didn't want to be bothered. I know y'all understand what I'm saying. We all been there. However, it just comes a time when you have to just pull back and say, you know what? It's about me. It's about me right now. Take care of yourself. We have mentioned that over and over again. We cannot emphasize enough that as a caregiver, to take care of who? Number one. And that's you. So remember that for all of us, this going across the platform, and God is no respecter of person. Get the self-care that you need. Take the time out for you and don't feel guilty about it. Don't feel guilty about it. You have put your all in all into taking care of your loved one or a professional. So take care of you always. So then you will not pour from an empty cup or empty vessel. We are the vessel. So moving ahead, that's just my little pet peeve. We're going to keep this thing going. So next, coming up to the stage, we have Sharice White. Let me find Sharice. And Sharice is going to share with us how to care for a caregiver. So that's right on time. Come on up. Come on up here, Sharice. Caring for a caregiver. You right on time. Okay, my sister, the stage is yours.
Hello, hello, hello. Good morning. Thank you, Ms. Sherelle. Thank you so very much.
My
Good
pleasure.
morning, everybody. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Absolutely.
All right, all right. Thank you so much. It is my honor and privilege to be amongst you guys today. It's such heartfelt stories from my sisters as well as my brother Chris in caregiving. As mentioned, my topic today is how to care for a caregiver. I am Sharice White. I am a daughter, first and foremost, an auntie, an entrepreneur, and a family caregiver. Today, I would like to speak to you regarding 3 ways in which you can care for a caregiver. So as you know, it takes a village to raise a child. After school, I would go to my grandparents' house and watch Murder, She Wrote with my grandma until it was time to go home. I felt like such a big girl taking care of my elderly grandma. My immediate family consisted of 4 individuals, no aunties, no uncles, just mom, dad, myself. And at the age of 9, I became a big sister. This was my first touch as a caregiver. I can remember those exact words, "You're going to be a big sister." Little did I know that this would shape my life going forward. From that day, I strive to be the best big sister that I could be, caring for her, picking her up from school, taking her to the babysitter, and of course, playing with me outside. She went with me everywhere. And of course, she told on me just the same. That was my first touch as a caregiver, and I took it very seriously. Fast forward to my college days away, my grandfather had taken ill, and I was needed back home. I moved in with him. Grandpa had dementia, and his home attendants would have him sleep during the day, and he would keep me up at night checking the closets and the doors, often waking me up in the middle of the night to tell me that either somebody was coming through the door or that there was a hole in the floor. I took care of Grandpa as best I could and continued to assist my mom and my sister and her life happenings while finishing college and working full time. Over the past years, I have taken care of my family. My dad was an amputee, and I often visited him in Texas to assist in his care before passing. In 2018, God suddenly called my sister home, and now my mom and I are taking care of my teenage nephew. To say tomorrow is never promised is an understatement. The best laid plans just can go away as easily as a wink. After overcoming many health challenges in 2021, Mom had surgery that was considered routine, and due to complications, I had to take leave from my position as a dialysis facility administrator to care for her and my nephew full time. In January, in fact, I had to resign to continue care. Mom remained in the hospital and rehab from October 9th till a few days before Thanksgiving. I was now Auntie Mom and visited the hospital daily. So at this point, you could tell that there's a lot going on being a caregiver. It's just not some external point in your life, But you will note that you will one day either will be a caregiver, need a caregiver, have been a caregiver, or are a caregiver. Caregiving is not just a relative that was born into the family. He or she is a person that is looked to almost 24 hours of the day to make things right, keep everything in order, make the calls, show up when others can't or won't. We often move in silence, feeling guilty, as Ms. Sherelle just said, for taking a bit of time for ourselves or forgetting something that was on the list to do. I had a minor health crisis back in 2019, and I had ignored some pain. And when I finally went for a checkup, cancer was found. But my God is so good. However, I kept it a secret from everyone while I took care of it. We often sacrifice so much so that while we're dealing with our caregivers, we forget about ourselves. Thank goodness it was caught early and everything resolved itself with God's grace. But while reflecting for this presentation, I was given so much pause because caregiving has gone into my life so much. It just steered the trajectory of my path. All my professions that I have chosen have reflected some sort of caregiving. I was a director for food service in the hospital. I cared for my customers at Sweet Green and as well as at Starbucks for over 10 years. And then in dialysis for over 4 years, caring for dialysis patients. So my heart has been tied to a lot of aspects of caregiving. So as mentioned, my topic is 3 points in which you can care for a caregiver. When you call a caregiver, please ask them about themselves prior to asking about the person that they are caring for. Let's face it, the family member is being taken care of by who? Me or that caregiver. So as a caregiver, we need some TLC. We need time for somebody to listen because we know everything can't be fixed with a conversation, but a listening ear with open-ended questions will go a long way in that caregiver's day. Number 2, when my mom was in the hospital, I was taking care of my nephew, running around, bringing him back and forth to school, picking him up, taking care of all the things that needed to be done. The last thing I wanted to do was cook. Nowadays, we have the opportunity, to send a complete meal to anyone's home. This would be a wonderful gift for anyone who needs just a break from cooking and lacks the time or capacity to fix a proper meal for the family. Nowadays, there's so many dietary things that are available regardless of what you need for sustenance. This would really, really help someone more than a TV dinner. You could send anything that you would like that would give that person a break from cooking. Number 3, offer to stand in the gap. Often caregivers, as we have mentioned all throughout these presentations, do not take self-care to heart and need to go out to have a worry-free moment, if not a day. If you can hold down the fort while they grab a cup of coffee, take a walk, or even a nap, this would mean the world to the caregiver and would do so much for that person that they're caring for, because they get a break from them too. Now, these are just a few of my suggestions on how to care for a caregiver. I am on this journey and I'm working on a blog to assist others who are in a similar journey. Before I close, I just want to thank my mom for our remarkable relationship and for her strength through all that she has been through. Thank God she is doing much better now. There's still a lot of care to give, but she's doing much better than she was back in October. I will continue to care for her, my nephew, and for all those in my life, because my heart is as a caregiver. I'm sorry, being a little emotional now, because as we all have mentioned, we had to take pause to think about the things that we do for our people in our lives, whether you're a family caregiver or you're in a position of caring. So when we do take that time, it's just a bit overwhelming. When I am able, I love to travel. And for those who follow me, know that I love the beach. So being a caregiver with a caregiver heart, that would lead me to care for others through the gift of travel. So please, as I close, I ask you to follow me on my website, ShariceWhite.IntelliTravel.com. You can follow me for all your vacation desires, IG at SamIrene8818. That's SAMIRENE 8818. My travel company is named after my dad, Samuel White, my sister, Samantha White, and my grandmother, Irene Carter. If you mention GCS, you will receive a special gift. Again, my name is Sharice White. I am a proud daughter, a proud auntie, an established entrepreneur, and a graceful family caregiver. May God continue to bless and keep each and every one of you. Thank you.
Come on to the stage. this delayed reaction, okay? If you guys don't know, between StreamYard and Facebook, there is a 10-second delay, right? So here we are. My sister Sharice White, thank you so much for sharing your story. It was definitely heartfelt. Anytime, like I keep saying, anytime we're taking care of family, it takes a lot out of us. But the Bible talks about taking care of your family first. Take care of your family first. So don't feel guilty about it. You are doing the right thing. And I always think about what our parents took care of us
First,
to where we are now. Am I right about it? Because if it had not been for them, where would we be at now? So guess what? It's that process of reciprocity.
Absolutely.
We are giving back what they have given to us. And so it's only the right thing to do. So hats off to all of you that are family caregivers and even those who are professional. But however, it's family first. And I'm going to leave it right there. Okay, so thank you so much, Sharice. We thank you for your time coming in. So I have a question for some people. Okay, so we have by popular demand, people are asking for Chris to come back up. If we can have Chris to come back up, please give us a minute, ladies and gentlemen. And this is have Chris come and finish his story. Please just be patient. And we're going, because the people are asking for Chris to come finish his story. It's like he left them on on a cliff. So Christopher, by popular demand, they want you to come finish your story. And we do know with man technology what can happen. So thank you so much.
Murphy's Law all the time. Make room for everything. But I felt like I was right here, so I'm going to have to come back right here. But I was talking about that last point. And in that last point, we were sharing about, giving beyond what your care level is. And there's a fine line between caregiving and abuse. When you're beyond your level of care, then you need to make sure that you have the proper people that are around you to be able to give that next level of care. So again, that was the point one that I had learned, was not to feel guilty that I had to make that decision of putting my mom into that next level of care. But I made a commitment to that she wasn't going to do it alone. So here's some other lessons that I learned from the caregiving journey that we had. Was you have to set your expectations, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to set your expectations in the right proper format. And when I mean that, your expectations of what you expect of yourself and your expectations of your family. And a lot of times we have this martyr mentality when we are caregivers, like nobody's caring for mom and dad the way that I'm caring for them. I'm giving my life for this thing, and nobody's here to help me. And a lot of times what happens is we're not allowing the family to help in the way that they can help. You see, you are gifted as a caregiver and graced as a caregiver to be able to handle medication, making sure that medication is done. You are gifted with the ability right now to be able to talk to the doctors and be that advocate in between your mom and your dad, or the person that you're caring for, and the hospital system that's not always there. So when you're looking at it, you've been graced to be where you are right now, meaning that you are empowered to do what you were called to do at that moment with everything you need when you are functioning under that purpose of being a caregiver. Not everybody is able to give the care at the level that you're expecting, and you're asking for them to help them, and when they come in to help the way that you want them to do, they're not doing it at that level, and then you want to get mad at them and you alienate the relationship, and then they don't help you at all, and now you're finding yourself alone because it's you, not them. So when your expectation is, you have to realize that everybody's feeling the burden of the care. I felt when I was caring for my mom, I have a younger brother, I felt that he needed to be there. My grandmother and aunts and uncles needed to be there, and they couldn't be there because they had families and issues that they had to deal with. But God allowed me to be there and position with my mom to care for her. And that was my position, and I played that role. And then I realized that the burden is amongst us all, but it's spread differently. And the worst thing that you can do is have a burden on you that you were not meant to bear. And now you're having a mental breakdown because you're bearing more than what you're supposed to. Same thing. You don't want to put that burden on someone else and they're not meant to have it. So don't have that martyr mentality that I'm the only one that really cares for mom because I'm here and I'm doing this all the time. Do you know how many family arguments and people that now when the family member has deceased and gone on to the next level, y'all all still holding on to this junk that's on you because y'all didn't play the position right, because you didn't have the right expectation of it. And that martyr mentality is only going to mess you up and alienate you and mess up the grace that you're meant to have, because now part of that grace is making sure that you have the support that you need. And now I knew that whenever I got to the point that I was too stressed, I can call on a family member and they know that when I pick up the phone to call them and say, yes, I'm having issues right now because mom is refusing medications. She's refusing her mental meds. She's refusing everything. And she's just straight out being obstinate right now. And when it got to that point, I would pick up my phone and I call my uncle and I said, listen, I need you. And then my uncle would come and stop what he was doing and come. He could not be there 24/7, but when he knew that when I pick up the phone to call, he was there. And therefore his support was just as much as my support at the same level. So there's no difference in the burden, because the burden is still a burden, but it's spread out differently. So I hope that was helpful with somebody. And you need to understand the second part that I learned. I learned this, that being a caregiver is a sacrifice. So I have to be prepared to sacrifice, but not slaughter. You're giving a sacrifice, not a slaughter. What I mean by that is that a sacrifice is something that you're willingly giving and you're giving it intentionally. Slaughter is you're just cutting things up and you're just doing it. Make sure that you're intentional. Realizing that in your sacrifice, you may be sacrificing your time, but you're not sacrificing your purpose. You have a purpose as a caregiver, but your caregiver is not your only purpose. Because there's going to come a time when the caregiving is over. And the reality is that page is turned over and that person has transitioned beyond you. And now you have a codependent lifestyle that you have attached yourself to the sickness and the care so much that you can't even see your life outside of the person that you were caring for. That's not sacrifice, that's slaughter. You need to take time. And why I'm saying this is because while I had taking care of my mom. I had 3 jobs, and I have a purpose of being a motivational speaker, a best-selling author, a worldwide global teacher, and all that was in me. You're like, how do you fit that in to the schedule? But I was working on pieces of it and building the foundation of it, and I might not have been able to be at every single conference. I might not have been at every single event. I couldn't afford to do what and be at these great events that cost money and investment and invest in the next level, but I was building slowly on my purpose, and I still had my hand on my greater picture, because after my mom left, I was positioned to take the step into my purpose and the fulfillment of the vision. And I'm going to tell you this because it talked about being, the point of me saying this is that you will not come out this empty. And my point was this: I felt that I was sacrificing so much that I was putting my purpose aside, but I was still had my hand on my purpose while I was caregiving into my purpose. And then when my mom passed away, it wasn't even 6 months that my life changed dramatically. The years that I sowed into my mom, covering my mom, opened up an overflow that was, it took me to a different level of income. Within 6 months, I was promoted from being a regular sales agent to now being a manager of a whole state of over 2,000 sales representatives. So my income went up. I couldn't do that if I was caregiving at the season that I was caregiving. So within 6 months of caregiving, the results started to come. Within 6 months of my mom passing, I became a best-selling global, #1 best-selling Amazon motivational author. I was able to come out with my complete book that I wrote myself. I was able to step into global stages like we're doing right now with this global conference that we're doing now. This is just one of many that I have been able to do. The years that I thought that I lost wasn't lost. It was seeded. And when my time was able to walk and I was able to transition, I was able to restore everything. You want to call it karma? You want to call it the law of reciprocity? What I sowed into my mother, I'm now able to reap. And it seems like the grace on my life has now accelerated me to another platform. Now, there probably ain't nothing now. You see Champ I Am all over the place, right? Why? But I did my time. And the reason why you're seeing me succeed now was because of the seed that I sowed in caring and doing that assignment. Take care of that assignment. Keep your hand on your personal purpose while you're caring. Because a lot of times you get so overwhelmed and you're like, well, I can't do it. I can't see my way through. I can't do all this. I can't write the book. Who says you can't take an hour to write a chapter? Put your hand on your purpose. I don't have time to do that. In your woosah time, you better be making time for yourself. So in your woosah time, put a part of that creative energy and that resting energy on laying hand on your purpose. Because the chapter is going to close. And if it closes, the reason why you're going to succeed and not come out of this empty was because while you were building, you were still planting. Most farmers, they're not putting all their seed in the ground at the same time. You have to put your seed in the ground, collect your harvest, but while you're doing that harvest, you got another seed in the ground. So while you're caregiving, you need to make time for your purpose. And while you're making time for your purpose, you're planting those seeds so that when that chapter ends, you'll step not at the end of your book, because your book does not end when theirs does, but you'll start at the beginning of a new chapter for yours. Keep on doing what you're doing, caregivers, and I guarantee you, you will not come out of this empty. Sister Cheryl.
I'm back here. I'm back here just applauding, and then I'm on mute the whole. Man, that was so powerful. That was so inspirational. You will not come out empty. Come on through here, King Champion. The name stands for something. I'm telling you. This is King. I call him King Champion for a reason. This is Champion Christopher Hampton. You will not come out empty. Thank you so much for sharing that and sharing your powerful story about your mom. I'm telling you right now, I know I work in the healthcare. A lot of us are in the healthcare. There are a lot of males that they will take care of their mother. However, they would choose not to. But we know the reasons. Is all good. However, you did it, and you did it with respect and honor and prayer for your mother. And for that, you have been graced all these global stages. So never think that you're doing things in vain. For the Bible declares what? When your time comes, that seed time harvest is coming if you do not faint. Amen.
I would like you just to stay connected with me.
Huh?
If you stay connected with me, it's Champ I Am. So it's CHAMPIAM.org. Because there's a champ on the inside of you. The champ is I Am. So ChampIam.org.
That is right on time, Champion. He is a knockout too, in case y'all didn't know. Come on, Champion. Thank you so much. We look forward to doing things with you, collaborating with you in the future. You have a wonderful day and continue to follow us and connect with the champ. Thank you so much.
Thank you.